60 Things You Don't Know About Michael Jackson. 1. He was born in Gary, Indiana. He remains the city's most famous resident, with Gary never recovering from the loss of its factory industry in the 1960s. That said, it's also home to Jesse Powell, Kim Mazzell and Sista Monica Parker. 2. His parents had musical ambitions of their own. Mother Katherine Jackson played the clarinet and piano and aspired to be a country and western singer. Father Joe was a guitarist and made extra cash performing in local R&B bands. 3. His first public performance was in 1963. When he was 5, he sang Shirley Bassey's Climb Every Mountain at a public event organized by Garnett Elementary School's kindergarten. 4. His father was the first to notice the talent in his children. He would invite music executives to the family home where the Jacksons would audition in the living room. 5. James Brown was his major inspiration. The late godfather of soul inspired Michael Jackson to hit the stage. Speaking at his public funeral in 2007, Michael recalled how, "Ever since I was a small child, no more than like 6 years old, my mother would wake me no matter what time it was, if I was sleeping, no matter what I was doing, to watch the television to see the master at work." 6. Michael made his recording debut at 9 years old. It was on Big Boy by the Jackson 5, which was released by a small label in January 1968. It didn't sell in large numbers, but it was enough to notify the major labels that these kids had talent. 7. His love for books began as a young teen. His early favorites were Rip Van Winkle by Washington Irving and The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. He reportedly amassed a library of more than 10,000 books. 8. His relationship with his sister LaToya was based on their love of practical jokes. His favorite was tormenting her with fake spiders and tarantulas. He would place a suspect creature on the phone in LaToya's bedroom and would then call her and wait for her scream. 9. Michael began touring as an 8-year-old. As part of the first run of shows in America's Midwest, the Jackson 5 supported soul legends Etta James, Gladys Knight and Sam and Dave. 10. Michael was never particularly fond of his voice during early recordings with the Jackson 5. Despite the acclaim, he would often lament the high pitch of his voice in later interviews, describing it as similar to that of Minnie Mouse. 11. It could have been the Jackson 6. Nearly 18 months before he was born, his mother gave birth to a set of twins, Marlon and Brandon. As a result of a severely premature pregnancy, Marlon survived, but Brandon passed away 24 hours later. 12. Berry Gordy initially wasn't a fan of Michael and his brothers. The star maker and head of Motown Records dismissed the idea of signing them to his label, preferring to focus on Stevie Wonder. But he was eventually convinced to give them a shot, and he signed them up in 1969. 13. You may not know her name, but Suzanne de Passé had a big role in his artistic development. She was assigned as a mentor and stylist to the Jackson 5 after they joined Motown. That relationship extended to Michael's solo career, and she was the first one to see him rehearse the iconic dance the moonwalk in 1983. 14. The Jackson 5's global hit I Want You Back in 1969 was originally written for Gladys Knight and the Pips and Diana Ross. What's unusual about the song is that the lovelorn lyrics are sung by Michael, who was barely in his teens at the time. 15. ABC is the first of Jackson's songs that 50 Cent recalls hearing. Speaking to NME in 201, the rapper said the track was responsible for him becoming a fan. "I've always loved MJ, so I guess it was probably a good place to start music right here with the ABCs." 16. Michael broke barriers from a young age. When Michael was a 12-year-old with the Jackson 5, the group became the first black male group to release 4 back-to-back chart toppers, with 1969's I Want You Back and 1970's ABC, The Love You Save and I'll Be There. 17. There was solo life before Off the Wall. For many, Michael arrived with 1979's Off the Wall, but he released his debut solo album Got to Be There in 1972. It was a solid collection of soul and pop, with covers of Leon Ware's I Wanna Be Where You Are and Bill Withers's Ain't No Sunshine. 18. Michael won his first and only Golden Globe in 1972. For Ben, a song Michael wrote for the 1972 horror film of the same name. 19. Michael always had his ear to the clubs. MJ was a frequent visitor to the legendary New York City club Studio 54, where he was exposed to beatboxing, which was an early harbinger to the upcoming hip-hop movement. He went on to incorporate the vocal technique into many of his future songs. 20. His first venture into film was The Wiz. Michael starred as a scarecrow in the title role of The Wiz, an adaptation of The Wizard of Oz. The film was horrible, but it was here he struck up a life-changing partnership with Quincy Jones, who went on to produce his biggest albums. 21. Quincy Jones nicknamed him Smelly. This was during their time on The Wiz. I used to call Michael Smelly because he wouldn't say funky, he'd say smelly jelly. 22. Michael broke his nose in 1979 during dance practice. Michael then consulted Hollywood favorite Dr. Stephen Hoeflin, who reportedly performed Michael's first rhinoplasty. 23. Michael only worked with the best. In addition to enlisting Jones to produce the 1979 blockbuster album Off the Wall, the songwriters who helped him on the record included none other than Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder. 24. Unlike many of his peers, Michael hated singing from a sheet. While recording Off the Wall, he spent the evenings learning lyrics and harmonies and would arrive at the studio the next day singing them off by heart. 25. Prince visited him during the Off the Wall sessions. Speaking to The National, Quincy Jones recalled how Prince arrived into the studio like a deer in the headlight, clothes and shirt off, but he was always competing with Michael. 26. Michael was the only musical mind behind one of his biggest hits. Off the Wall was full of songwriting collaborations, but Michael was solely responsible for one of its biggest tracks, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. He decided to write the song after constantly humming the melody at home. 27. The change on 1979 single Rock With You. It was originally called I Want to Eat You Up, but that was deemed too risque for Michael's heartthrob image. 28. Off the Wall was almost a hit for Karen Carpenter. The hit title track from Off the Wall was originally written for the late Karen Carpenter's debut solo album. She declined to use it and Michael made it a top 10 hit instead. 29. The tears in She's Out of My Life are real. MJ would break down in tears at the end of each studio take. We recorded about 8 to 11 takes and every one at the end he just cried, producer Quincy Jones said. I said, hey, that's supposed to be Leave It On There. 30. MJ surrounded himself with talent in both the studio and the boardroom. With Off the Wall he secured the game-changing royalty rate of 37 cents wholesale per sale. It went on to sell more than 20 million copies. 31. Thriller was a blockbuster fueled by frustration. Despite big sales and critical acclaim, he was irked that Off the Wall didn't win the Grammy Award for Record of the Year. It was totally unfair that it didn't get Record of the Year and it can never happen again, Michael told manager John Branca. Thriller went on to win a record-breaking 8 Grammys in 1984. 32. Billie Jean Doesn't Exist. Despite being the subject of one of his biggest hits, The Woman, who in the 1983 song admits she is carrying Michael's unborn son, is pure fiction. The girl in the song is a composite of people my brothers have been plagued with over the years, Michael wrote in his memoir Moonwalker. 33. Billie Jean was the first video by an African-American artist to air on MTV. The video revealed Michael's new look of a leather suit, pink shirt, red bow tie and his signature single white glove. It was a style copied by kids throughout the United States. It caused one school, New Jersey's Bound Brook High, to ban students from coming to class wearing white gloves. 34. Michael introduced his famous moonwalk in 1983. It was during a live performance of Billie Jean for the Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever concert special. He was taught the move by veteran dancer Jeffrey Daniel, who went on to be hired as Michael's co-choreographer. 35. MJ was a music investor from 1983. He bought the rights to select music from funk pioneers Sly and the Family Stone and the iconic Dion DiMucci songs The Wanderer and Run Around Sue. Before landing the rights to the 4,000-song catalog of ATV Music Publishing, which included the lion's share of the Beatles songs. 36. MJ's Beat It was a fiery single. When Eddie Van Halen recorded his blistering solo, the sound of his guitar caused one of the studio speakers to catch fire. 37. The gritty music video for Beat It was a landmark production. The lavish production cost $100,000 at the time. It was set in Los Angeles' Skid Row and featured up to 80 real-life gang members from the notorious street gangs the Crips and the Bloods. 38. Toto were heavily involved in the making of Thriller. Keyboardist Steve Porcaro co-wrote Human Nature, and Steve Lukather contributed rhythm guitar on Beat It. 39. Thriller was almost Starlight. The lyric, Thriller, in the track of the same name was originally, Starlight. The decision to change it was down to marketing appeal. 40. PYT, Pretty Young Thing, was never performed live by Michael. Despite being a well-received single from the Thriller album, the star never featured the song in any of his live sets. 41. Thriller was included in the Library of Congress's National Recording Registry. The music video for the title track was also placed in the National Film Preservation Board's National Film Registry of culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant films. 42. It was with his seventh album 1987's Bad that Michael really came into his own as a songwriter. MJ wrote 9 of the 11 tracks and co-produced the album with Quincy Jones. 43. The title track for the Bad album was supposed to be a duet with Prince. But the latter walked away from it due to the opening line, "Your butt is mine." Now who is going to sing that to whom? He sure ain't singing that to me and I sure ain't singing it to him, Prince said in a TV interview with American comedian Chris Rock. 44. The smooth 1987 ballad I Just Can't Stop Loving You is a duet with singer Siedah Garrett. She was the third choice after Barbra Streisand and Whitney Houston rejected the offer. 45. The Way You Make Me Feel was his mother's request. Michael wrote this track after his mum asked him to write something with a shuffling kind of rhythm. 46. Man in the Mirror is one of the few music videos he is hardly in. Other than appearing at the end standing in a crowd, the video is a montage of major events and historical figures. 47. MJ's Super Bowl XXVII halftime show in 1993 was game-changing. His pyrotechnics-laced 4-song set was watched more than the game itself. It has set the standard for halftime shows ever since. 48. Michael Jackson's 1991 album Dangerous was hot property. 5 days before its release, 3 armed men broke into a music warehouse in Los Angeles and stole 30,000 copies. 49. The explosive video for Black or White was directed by Hollywood stalwart John Landis. It starred an 11-year-old Macaulay Culkin fresh from his starring role in Home Alone. 50. The music video to Scream was at the time in 1995 the most expensive ever produced. It had a $7 million budget. The menacing and arty video starred Michael and his sister Janet. 51. Even when he wasn't trying, Michael Jackson broke records. His album Blood on the Dance Floor, History in the Mix, released in 1997, remains the best-selling remix album of all time with more than 6 million copies sold after virtually no promotion. 52. Michael consistently mixed music with charity work. He was behind a series of Michael and Friends concerts in Germany and Korea which featured performers such as tenors Luciano Pavarotti and Andrea Bocelli as well as rockers Slash and the Scorpions. The money raised went to the non-profit organization War Child. 53. MJ's final studio album Invincible was the best-selling album of 2001 despite moderate reviews. It features the song Unbreakable, which had until then the unreleased vocals by slain rapper The Notorious Big. 54. After years of scandals and court cases, Michael Jackson re-emerged on the music stage by announcing his final live tour, This Is It. The first 10 shows alone to be held at London's O2 Arena in the summer of 2009 would have netted him £50 million. The residency was extended to 50 shows, but the tour was cancelled following his death on June 25, 2009. 55. This Is It was his first posthumous release. With the This Is It tour abandoned after Michael's death, the tour's title track became the first of many posthumous releases. The song was originally written in the 1980s by Paul Anka. 56. The Secrecy of Escape. Michael Jackson's second posthumous album, released on May 13, 2014, was such a big deal that journalists were invited to secret listening sessions around the world days before its release. The session for this region was held at Dubai's now-closed Kubara restaurant. 57. The life and times of Michael Jackson were discussed in detail at the inaugural Dubai Music Week in 2013. It featured a sold-out special panel session on Jackson's career featuring producer Quincy Jones and other collaborators, the late Rod Temperton and singer Siedah Garrett. 58. Abu Dhabi and China were discussed as possible sites for the world's first Jackson family-themed hotel called Your Majesty. Speaking exclusively to The National in 2013, Jermaine Jackson said he was looking at Yas Island as a possible site for the hotel, which would be filled with Jackson family memorabilia. Nothing has been built as yet. 59. To celebrate Michael Jackson's 60th birthday, a large street party was held in New York City to celebrate his life. It was organized by the director and his collaborator Spike Lee. 60. It is only fitting that the Apollo Theater in New York is hosting its legendary amateur night today. It was on the same stage that in 1967, the Jackson 5 launched their career. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more Michael Jackson videos.